Hey everyone, Jason here from Usable Smoke Productions. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Fade tool in Logic Pro. All right, before we dive in, just kind of a quick recap here. We've been working on a tune called Shades. And if you've watched some of the previous videos, we've been through the conversion process from GarageBand, iOS to Mac to Logic. And then we took a look at adjusting our routing with our buses. We created a template and we adjusted our gain staging from our original project. So all of that has been done. And now we're taking a closer look at each one of our tracks here so that we can do a good, thorough remixing of our project so that we can see if we need to do any retracking and all of that good stuff as we get it ready for release. All right, so what does this Fade tool do? How does it work? How do we access it? What are the benefits? We'll get into all of that. All right, so first thing here is I have my drum set and percussion bus soloed here. Everything else is muted. And one thing that I really like to do is I like to use a combination of MIDI sounds, real analog sounds, actual instruments, samples. I try using all of the tools in the toolbox, so to speak, right? So in this particular example here, we've got a sampled brush drum set here. It sounds like this. We'll just take a quick listen. Okay, so it's very simple and repetitive. We have some samples here from a maraca part. Okay, very repetitive. We have a sampled conga part. All right, and then we've got some real instruments. So we've got some finger cymbals here that I recorded. Oh, let me solo that so you can hear it. All right, we've got my actual drum set here that I've recorded. All right, so when we put it all together, we wind up with a groove that sounds a little something like this. All right, cool. So one thing that I don't like about using samples is, there may be only one or two measures long, and then that same pattern repeats, right? Or even if it's 4 or 8 measures long, that pattern's going to repeat. It's going to be on a loop, okay? And there's nothing wrong with loops. It's just, they tend to sound the same after a while, and if you really know the arrangement, you're looking for as much, well, I don't know if you are, at least I am. I'm looking for as much variation as possible, right, to keep it interesting. If you were a conga player in a recording session, you likely wouldn't play the same part, same 2-measure part, 52, 53, 54 times in a row without any variation. There's going to be variation just because of human error, and, that's what makes it good, in my opinion, right, those little variations. So how can we come close to that using samples? We can mix different samples together. You can record yourself without using samples at all. You can also use this Fade tool. All right, so I'm going to solo this, and one thing that you're probably going to notice is that in certain spots, it's going to abruptly stop or start, and that leaves us with a little pop. If you take a close listen, it sounds like this. Okay, so we don't want that in our sound because those pops, if I'm doing the same thing here with my shaker part, take a listen. Those are going to add up, okay, and they're going to cause your mix to potentially peak and clip. It's just going to be unwanted popping noise. We do not want that in our recording, okay? So here's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can select the region that you are working with. In this case, we're going to start with the conga part. And then you go ahead and select your fade tool from this little drop-down menu up here. And you're going to want to decide on how much of a fade you want. In this case here, this is set to quarter notes up here in my subdivision, so this would be eighth notes. So I'm going to select an eighth note subdivision, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to highlight it and drag, and this is going to fade out so that there's no popping sound. Let's take a listen. All right, so we have a little bit of a fade here. Just for kicks, let's see what that will sound like if I do a full quarter note fade in. Okay, so that's a much smoother sound. Okay, let's do the same thing with our, what is this, some kind of a shaker part, maracas. Let's take a listen. Okay, so let's get rid of that pop. We'll go ahead and select the region, and we'll fade out. Hear what that sounds like. Okay, and we'll do the same thing here. We'll do a quarter note fade. Great, let's put them together. Okay, now only you can decide, what you prefer the sound of. If you like a longer fade, if you like the shorter fade. It really depends on the arrangement that you're working with. So let's take a listen to everything in context here. This is our drum set and percussion items. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, that sounds a lot more natural. Okay, it sounds a lot more natural. So again, when you're using samples, remember, even though it's a real instrument and a real player or players, recorded the sample, when you're cutting it up and carving it out, and you have a half measure of rest here, half measure of rest there, and you need to cut down your sample. If you're doing it right in the middle of the sample, chances are it's going to leave one of these little pops or click sounds, right? And that's the same really for any instrument that you record. If I go down here to, I'm trying to see if I've got an example here. Here's an acoustic guitar part. And it looks like over here, we might have one of those moments where there potentially is a little, there's one section to the next, so there might be a click or a pop there. Let's take a listen and see. That's some pretty awful playing there, but it didn't sound clicky or poppy. I hear it here though, right? So there's definitely some clicking and popping there, okay? This is probably another one of my famous cut and paste jobs, right? So what I can do is I can select these two regions, right? And I can do a crossfade here, where I'm going to fade out one measure and fade in the next. Let's hear if that sounds a little smoother. Pretty good. All right, so there was no click or pop in between that time. Now, if you mess up, if you make a mistake, you can always click the undo, crossfade edit up here, or you can right click and you could remove the crossfade that you just put in. Now, another really useful tip is if you wanted to do multiple measures at once, you can go ahead and click on each one of your examples here, and you can go ahead and do your crossfade in just one of the measures. And what it'll automatically do for you, because Logic is awesome, it'll automatically crossfade those other measures. Let's take a listen. All right, cool. So, yeah, that's about it. The fade tool is a really quite excellent tool in your arsenal here. You can make a lot of quick edits if you're doing a lot of cutting and pasting and whatnot. It definitely is. It comes in handy, very helpful. To be honest with you, though, again, this is all about preference, right? So for me, I am not a huge fan of doing anything cutting and pasting. This particular tune was back in my earlier days of songwriting and recording, and I'm running into this a lot where I'm seeing a lot of the copy and pasting and the cutting and all that other stuff. Nowadays, I much prefer just clicking record, keeping the metronome going, and just trying to get it all in one really good take straight through. And if I need to make any edits, I'll go ahead and do it, but I'll be starting with a much more cohesive performance straight through. I just prefer that now. But if you're in the same boat as me and you've got an older tune, a demo that you're wanting to remix and release, which would involve, like I said, going through the whole process of conversion, adjusting your routing and your buses, remixing, retracking, re-recording, all that good stuff. You want to definitely be able to know what some of these useful tools are at your disposal. Okay, so that's about it for now. I hope that you find this quick video useful. If you do, please consider liking and subscribing to Musical Smoke Productions. I would appreciate that. And again, hopefully through my trial and error, through my mistakes along the way, hopefully you can learn from them and it will be helpful to you in your process of writing and recording your own music. So until next time, happy music making. This is Jason from Musical Smoke, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.